Who is Gianna Lutz?
Well, and I'm not offended by any means, but it's actually pronounced Jonna.
Gianna.
Um,
Oh,
yeah, no, it's okay. It happens. It looks like Gianna, but it's Italian. I'm named after my grandmother, so that's yeah. It happens all the time, so I'm not worried about it.
oh,
Um,
okay.
I'm
I'm
sure
sorry.
literally everybody reads it like that. So I usually tell people to just call me G because that just seems to be it's confusing when you look at it on paper, your brain registers it as that. So even though when people know it as Jonna, when they read it, it still looks like Gianna.
Mm. Well,
But to answer your question, I mean, that's a really deep question. I don't know that I fully know myself to the core yet, but I know enough about me. I've done enough soul searching and self reflection to know like I'm a really good hearted person. I stick to a very strict moral code. Um, I I learned a long time ago that I wanted to follow my dream, and I was living a life for other people, like my parents, my grandparents, and everybody was always telling me like, "Oh, you should go to college and you should get a degree in this or whatever so you have something to fall back on." And I just realized that it's just going to have to be me. Like I'm going to have to be the one that proves everyone wrong because this isn't their life, you know what I mean? Like they're not the one walking in my shoes. So when I decided to get into acting in the entertainment industry, I realized I was going to have to start telling people, I got this. I don't need your backup plan just because that's how things were done or that may be how you would do things. That's not how I do things. Or I'm gonna show you. Like when I put my mind to something, I achieve it.
that that was actually going to be my question. Like later on, like how did your family, your friends reacted? But yeah. Now, are they very supportive later on?
Yeah, yes and no. I mean, for the most part, yes. I do think, I mean, I still catch it from time to time, like, oh, well, you should have a backup plan, or maybe you should think
Right.
about doing this and like have something more stable and then get back into this. And while I mean, I can see where they're coming from because it's logical, something
Yeah.
about having a dream and a huge desire. If it was easy, everyone would do it. You know what I mean? I think that's why it
Right.
makes it a dream.
One of the things I learned from my family, who's very supportive of what I do, is
Mhm.
that you have to understand what they don't understand.
Right.
So so you just have to just keep on doing what you're doing until they get to that point, like, okay, I understand where she's coming from.
Yes.
And I
Yeah, and now,
understand.
I mean, now they tell me all the time, they're like they buy everything, they share everything, they tell me how proud they are of me, how talented I am to just keep going and persevere and not give up. But again, it was one of those things where I had to prove to them that I could do it. And once I
Right.
started gaining momentum and success, they were like, "Oh, it's like people are going to doubt you, even the people who love you." And it's not coming from a place of malice, it's coming from a place of safety. Like they want to protect you. So, they just want what's best for you.
Yeah. Absolutely. And where are you originally from?
So, I actually grew up in Washington State until I was 15. And then I moved to San Diego, California, because my parents were in the Navy. And then
Okay.
when I graduated from high school, I joined the Navy, and then yeah, kind of I have lived everywhere. I think though, I live in South Carolina now. This is the longest I've ever lived in the same place.
For how long?
6 years.
6 years.
hmm
Now, now, how long were you in the Navy before you left?
I was in the Navy for 4 years. So my first 2 years, I was stationed in Washington State. Oddly enough, I got stationed back in the same place I had grew up, which wasn't terrible because I had family there. And then I had never been to the East Coast at that point in my life. And so I said, I really want to go to Virginia. And so my last two years, I was stationed in Virginia Beach.
You know what's crazy is that my mom, well, she's originally from Columbia, South Carolina, and
Mhm.
she was stationed in Portsmouth, Virginia for
Okay.
about a year or two.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, I was born there, and I don't remember too much in Virginia. But the only thing I remember was the tunnel. That was
Oh,
like the
yeah. Yeah.
yes.
Mhm.
So I remember I just me and my mom would go down that tunnel, and only thing I see was just like
Yeah.
almost pitch black. So,
Yeah.
and I appreciate you serving the country and everything.
Thank you.
Mhm. Now, when you were in the Navy for 4 years, what lesson have you learned from that experience?
Mm. I like that question a lot. People always like they never believe. They're like, "You were in the Navy?" I'm like, "Yeah." And they're like, "How was that?" And I always say, "I hated it. I hated every minute of it. I could not. It was the longest 4 years of my life. I mean, but I made a lot of great friends and a lot of great memories, and I learned a lot of harsh lessons very, very fast. The military forces you to grow up and
Yeah.
mature at a very fast rate. Um, I learned how to be self sufficient. And my
Mhm.
biggest takeaway from the military was that my life is only going to go down a path if I make sure it gets there. And I learned that lesson when I was trying to get to Virginia and I had to talk to my detailer, which is the person who gives you your orders to the next command.
Mhm.
And it's in the military, it's this whole process, this whole chain of command. You have to talk to this person before this person will talk to that person, and this, that, and the other thing. And I'm like, this is my life you're talking about. I did not like that. So I used to skip over people and go straight to the source because that's the kind of person that I am. I don't want to talk to 300 people in between. If I have a question and you are the only one who has the final answer, I'm going to talk to you. We're going to save a lot of people a lot of time that way. And I used to get in a lot of trouble for that. But I got it done. I got things done the way, in my opinion, that they should be done. But what also happened was it taught me how much of a leader I truly am inherently because I'm willing to get in trouble for the sake of the greater good.
Mhm.
I got a bunch of rules changed for the entire command by having the attitude that I had.
Right.
I used to go to like the command master chief and I would present the problem and I would present the solution and I would back my case up with evidence because I firmly believe that you can't, like, you're just a whiner and a complainer if you just go, "Oh, I don't like this. This is stupid." No, show me why it's stupid and offer me some solutions. Like, we might not go with that solution, but we can come up with one together. If you present a problem to somebody, you can back it up with evidence and you provide at least one solution. It shows that person that you're not there to waste their time, that this is a serious issue.
Now, after you joined the Navy and everything, what was next after this? Did you start doing acting afterwards, or what was going on?
No, so I didn't really truly know I wanted to get into acting until I was 28 years old. I got out of the Navy when I was 22. So I met I'm divorced, but so I met my ex-husband in the military. He was a Marine.
Mm.
And when I got out, I went back to California and then we reconnected and I ended up moving to North Carolina with him. Long story short, we started a family, got married, did that whole thing. And I we moved to New York because that's where he was from. And he started going back to school to become a teacher. And I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do. Like, I'm a very business minded person. and I started going to school for business management, and I quickly was like, this is a scam. Like, you're just teaching me how to make money for somebody else or work for somebody else, but you're not offering any courses on how I can make money for myself. No entrepreneurship courses at all.
Right.
And when I would ask for help with things, they wouldn't provide any assistance, and I'm like, what am I paying for? And so I dropped out of college, and I told myself, I gave myself like a timeline. I don't remember how long it was, maybe like a month or two. And I was like, you have to decide, what do you want to do with your life? And I asked myself, like, what has made you truly happy? And what have you always gone back to?
Right.
And I couldn't stop thinking about how much I love to entertain people. I love acting. Like, even when I was a kid, I used to do like little shows for my family. I did like drama and theater all through school, and I just love it. I love any chance to entertain or like make people laugh and things like that. So I was like, I can do this. I mean, I have an opportunity. I live in New York. I can do this. And so, and when I'm that type of person, when I get my mind on something, that is it. I will become obsessed with it. I will learn the ins and outs of it. I'll learn everything there is to know about it. So that's what I did on my 28th birthday. I went into the city, I got my first headshots. And then, I downloaded Backstage and Actors Access and all that stuff. And I just started, doing all the things that they say you're supposed to do, but it's like you got to have experience to get experience, but you can't get experience unless you have experience kind of thing. And so I started trying to get in on like student films and things like that.
Right.
Uh, I mean, I put myself through a lot in the beginning.
Right. Right. Now, what TV shows has inspired you? I Love Lucy or Martin? What type of TV shows? Like,
I like both of those. I mean, I obviously love all of like Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, Family Matters, Growing Pains, Full House, all of those shows I love. But it was really like more movies that got me than anything, like Steel Magnolias is like such a phenomenal movie, and the acting in that movie is sensational. Like Sally Field's monologue when she loses her daughter,
mhm.
I mean, and then, but to in a juxtaposition to that movie, you've got like My Cousin Vinny, where you have Marissa Tomei's character, and I mean, it's just the way that these women found that character and brought it to life and made such a imprint on our minds and like our core memories. I want to be like that.
Mhm. Now, do you remember your first acting role?
I remember kind of, yes. They were student films. So like the very first one that I did was I was just like a background actor in an NYU student film. And it was at a restaurant, and I remember hating every second of it. I was like, this is so stupid. I hate this. This is so long and boring. And then, but I also watched like a lot of chaos being ensued, and I was like, well, they are students and blah, 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 blah. And then I got another role in a student film, and I went to some sketchy apartment in New York City. It was another NYU film, and it was so disgusting in there. And I was like,
No.
gonna get murdered here for sure. And they didn't even end up using my part. They cut it out. I mean, they sent me the footage at least, but it was garbage. I wasn't able to
Yeah.
use it. And that happened so much, where I would
Oh yeah.
do these roles for free, or like I would be spending my money to get there, taking my time to get there, making arrangements to have someone watch my daughter, all of these things. Um, and I wouldn't get footage back. And I'm like, this is ridiculous, and no agents are going to look at you if you don't have a reel. And, I can't, I can put this stuff on my resume, but it doesn't look good.
It's pointless, pretty much.
Right. And so that's what motivated me to start writing. I end up writing I got so frustrated, and I'm an impatient person, but I got so frustrated. I'm like, if you want things done, you got to do it yourself. So I went and I wrote my first short film, and I got a bunch of people together, actors and crew, and they all worked for free. I mean, I provided like lunch and snacks and things like that. And we made a short film.
Oh, and what was the name of the short film?
That one was called This One's on Me. I mean, I didn't ever release it or anything because the person who ended up editing it kind of butchered that one too. But it was a process. Everything that you do in this industry is networking. You got to meet people. You got to build relationships.
Yeah.
So I did that, and I made friendships with these people, and we made relationships. So I was able to do more things, or they would, tag me in something if I fit the role, or if we wanted to do another short film or something, which I ended up doing with a lot of the same people who were on the first one. My second short film was called Shine, and that one is on YouTube. And again, I mean, you can watch my progression through the years, like through me learning my experiences and all of that, by the way, like from Shine to, where I have now Hands of Hell, and then the Texas Witch, these are my two feature films that are coming. Well, Hands of Hell is out already, but the Texas Witch is coming out soon. And you can just see the progression.
Now, for Shine, what was your inspiration? And I understand that focus on the Great Depression.
Yeah, that movie was actually inspired by the movie Fried Green Tomatoes. I was watching that movie, and I really liked the friendship in the movie. And I wanted to make a period piece because I just inherently like that kind of stuff. And I also love, I mean, I am a huge history person. I love history. So, and we live in the South, and we live, near the Appalachian Trail. And, this is where a lot of that history happened. But the core of the movie was supposed to be about two friends who like never leave each other's side. But it involved like bootleggers and like Great Depression and Prohibition and stuff like that. Cause I was just really interested in it. I thought it would make for a good content, and that's, yeah, I mean, I wish I had like a more in-depth artsy answer, but I really just was interested in it. And I wanted to write a good story about friends who, no matter what, they're there for each other. They're there by each other's side.
Now, what was the hardest part of writing this film? And also, where did you like learn? Like, how do you approach a role when you play your character?
I think it's a little bit easier to approach a role when you are the one writing it, because you already have it in your head, like what they sound like and what their favorite color is or who they are as a person, because you created them. Whereas when you're an actor and you get the script and it's somebody else's vision, so you really walk a fine line with that, because you want to make it your own, but also you're trying to stay true to the vision that the writer and the director have. And a lot of times, at speaking as a writer and a director and an actress, it's when I audition people for roles, the ones who do their own thing with it, who kind of go completely off like what I wrote and make it their own, that's usually who I end up casting. Because what happens is I see the same thing over and over and over. And it's just so obvious that they're sticking exactly to what I wrote. And it's like there's no imagination there, there's no creativity. And it just tells me that they're not willing to like break the rules. They're not willing to go outside the box and take a chance. And that's where, like, when you let your imagination and your creativity go, that's when you develop a character. Those are the characters who stick in people's minds. And I don't like it when actors are verbatim with my dialogue, because it might not sound right coming out of your mouth. I want it to feel authentic. I want to believe that you are that person. And majority of the time, that's going to come when you kind of do your own thing with it. Now, I'm not saying rewrite the whole thing. I'm just saying, you know, it doesn't have to be verbatim. Like, show me who this character is. Because maybe your idea or what you bring is going to amplify it more than what I even wrote or what I imagined.
Right. So do you allow them to improvise?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I like it when they bring something else to the table, because we're all working for the same common goal. We want to make a product that people want to watch and people will talk about and people will remember. I am fully aware that I am not the only person capable of a good idea. I like a team environment. So if you have a good idea, or if you have an idea at all, bring it to me. If I feel like that's going to work, let's use it, because I want what's best for this project. I'm not so arrogant to believe that I'm so perfect and all my ideas are great.
Yeah. Like, stick to the script.
Yeah, and
Like
there's a lot of directors and writers out there who they are very, very firm about that. I'm just not one of them.
Oh yeah, the Coen brothers. I heard that
Yeah.
they very strict on that. Now, is there a line in the script? Well, that wasn't in the script, but you just like, how could I think of that?
Not so much in Shine, because Shine wasn't, I mean, that was a stepping stone project for me. I actually ended up writing a pilot episode to a TV series from that. So it was a stepping, and I actually won awards. I submitted that script and I've won awards for it. But for like Hands of Hell and the Texas Witch, those ones are the ones that the auditions to some of them really stuck out to me for. But I will say, and he's a good friend of mine now, his name is Carter Birch, and he was in Shine, but he was also in the Texas Witch. His audition for Shine, it was so good. He really stood out. I mean, I was like, oh my God, he's insane. And it was just different. And he did the same thing, because even though he's my friend, I still made him audition, because I got to make sure that you're the best for the role.
Yes.
And I had so many men audition for the role of Cody in the Texas Witch. And it really was him. It got down to between him and another guy. And he just was better. He made the character a real person. And the other guy, I mean, he was good. I mean, he was good. It was a hard decision, but at the end of the day, Carter just brought something to it that I was like, that's it. Like, I mean, that's Cody.
Right.
And the same for in Shine. And I feel so terrible. I can't, Jimmy, that was his name. I was like, I can't think of his name, but Jimmy. Like, and Carter is good. Like, he'll use props. Like, he used a knife in his audition for Jimmy for Shine. I like that kind of stuff. Like, bring some realism to it, because you're just standing behind a blank wall.
Mm-hmm. And now I understand. I remember you said that you did Hands on Hell and the Texas Witch, and both of them are horror. And now, based on what I watch, like that movie came from like movies like such as Natural Born Killers or the Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Both of those, actually. When I wrote my pitch deck for Hands of Hell, those are the two movies that I said it is a cross between Natural Born Killers and the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, with a little touch of like Friday the 13th thrown in there, because of, you know, the camp on the lake and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But so when I wrote Hands of Hell, I wanted to write a movie that was like just so twisted. Like it was something just super out there. And it's so funny because when you write a script, I don't think a lot of people know this, but when you write a script, majority of what's on that script doesn't go into the movie, or you have to do a lot of rewrites or things,
Yeah.
depending on the actors, what they're comfortable with, or what, you know, the just what's available to you. So a lot of times what's in the script isn't what's reflected in the final product. So the script for Hands of Hell is far more twisted than the actual product. But, you know, like people were saying, like they weren't comfortable with some of the scenes, they weren't comfortable with this. And, you know, I'm not Hollywood. I don't have a $500 million budget. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
you know, it's fine. People will, they lose their morals real quick when money, when there's enough money. But you know, I still am proud of that project. I'm still very happy with it. And you know, I loved playing that character. I loved writing that character. And honestly, that movie took me, of all the movies that I have written, that movie took me the longest to write, because I wanted my killer, I wanted Bianca to not
Hmm.
have motivation for her killing. I wanted her to just be crazy and kill. And I needed to rewrite the script so many times because I kept giving her motivation, like unintentionally. Like I would be writing and writing, writing, and somehow I'd be giving her some backstory, and then the audience could feel sympathy for her. But I feel like it's one of those things, like people, they get so spoon-fed movies nowadays
Yeah.
that they're looking for the whys and stuff. So people didn't really get that from like the reviews that I read online. People didn't understand that like she was just crazy. Like there's no motivation behind this. Like she's just crazy.
Now, now, how did you deal with negative reviews?
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm a very self-aware person. I knew that the movie wasn't some like grandiose project. You know, I knew it wasn't going to be winning some mass amount of awards or whatever, but I also know that people are more cynical on the internet, and they
Hmm.
are more apt to write a negative review than a positive review. So I would say that, you know, of all the people who watched it, majority of people are not going to take the time to write a review, but people
Right.
love to complain. And
Hmm.
where better place to complain? I mean, think about every comment section of every video you watch. It's majority people complaining or saying something negative or some, you know what I mean? So I just
Yeah.
take it with a grain of salt. It's not going to be everybody's cup of tea. And I know that I'm still working, you know, I'm still learning and I'm still growing.
Hmm. Now,
And maybe one day it'll be a cult classic, you know, like 30 years from now, people will be like, oh my God, this movie is so, you know what I mean? I don't
yeah.
know.
Hey, you never know. Never say never.
Right.
And now, when you write a script, like? How do you start? Do you start by doing an outline first, the treatment, or you just go like, I'll just go
I
straight
go
to the
balls
script?
to the wall. I just go for it. I'd never written an outline before. I don't like that kind of style. Again, I have a really good memory, so I'll just sit down and I'll just write, and then I'll go back and I'll reread and I'll reread and I'll reread, and then I just write and write and write and write and write. And I'll do it for hours at a time. And then as soon as I finish it, I'll walk away from it for like a month and I won't
Yeah.
look at it. And then I'll go back and I'll read it again. And I'm like, oh no, that doesn't make any sense. Or why should they do this? Or, you know what I mean? And I'll add to it like that. But I also give myself a goal, because if you don't do that, I feel like you could just constantly be changing things because our brains never stop. You know what I mean? And events happen to us every day, or we'll recall a memory and we'll be like, oh, I'd like to put that in there. Even when the project is done, you'll think about it later on down the road. And you're like, dang, I wish I had done this, you know? So
Yeah.
I just go for it. I just write.
Now, what type of screenwriters books do you study on? Do you study the Screenwriter's Bible or Sid Field or Save the Cat?
I don't study any like of so I am a self-taught screenwriter. I didn't know what I was doing at first. So I Googled my first thing I Googled was screenwriting software.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I first started, I used Fade In, but now I've been using Final Draft for my last
Oh,
few
okay.
films. Um, and then I didn't know what to do. I just started Googling how to write a screenplay. And then if I would have a question about like how someone would talk, or if I wanted to like superimpose something on the screen, but I didn't know how to put that into a script. So I Googled it and then I figured it out. So everything is just Googled. I just Googled everything and I read and I read and I watched videos and I just learned everything that I possibly could about it.
So, so do you also like print out scripts from like movies and stuff like that to help?
Yeah, I don't print them out, but I do read them. So for example, I wrote a movie called Feeding the Devil,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a supernatural scary movie. Um, and I wasn't quite sure how to write to capture those anticipatory scares where they're like long and drug out.
Okay.
So I read the screenplay for Annabelle because I wanted to see that. And then I read the screenplay for The Conjuring. Like those are two movies that if you really sit down and look at it, it's not really that scary. It's a lot of your own imagination and that weight, that build up, the suspense. So you're scaring yourself.
Yeah.
I didn't know how to do that. And I wanted to be able to do that in my next movie. So that's what I taught. Like I took away from my other movies, like these are things that I need to learn how to do better. And so I went in and I taught myself.
Right. I noticed that you've been mentioning a lot of horror related movies,
Mhm.
The Conjuring and Annabelle. Now, are you a horror fan?
Actually not really. I mean, I like a good like the original Scream movie. And there are certain horror movies that I like, but I don't really like supernatural horror movies because they scare the crap out of me, which was the inspiration behind Feeding the Devil. But the reason that so I work with a business partner, his name is Andrew Evans. All my projects, like my features, so Hands of Hell, The Texas Witch, and then everything else we're doing in the future, we do them all together. And it was actually his idea. The Texas Witch was his idea, the name and the kind of just like the plot of the movie. And I just took it and ran with it and wrote the screenplay. I mean, we really did it together because I would, if I got stuck on something, I'd run it by him and he would, give me an idea. And I'm like, oh yeah, it'd get the wheels turning for me if I got writer's block or something. But he is really into horror movies. He loves them. But horror movies are the one genre that the sales never go down, is a steady
Right.
incline every year.
Oh.
And whereas every other genre will do that, or like Westerns, no, you're not making your money back on a Western.
Mhm.
So with horror films, they're easy to sell. People love them. It's a huge market. So
Yeah.
that's why we do it for the business aspect of it.
So outside the acting world, you done you were Miss South Carolina, right?
Well, I was in the Mrs. South Carolina for America pageant. I was Mrs. Fountain so I live in Fountain in South Carolina. I was Mrs. Fountain in America 2020. And then I got second runner up in the Mrs. South Carolina America pageant in 2020.
Okay. Now, tell me about that. How was that experience for you?
Okay, I had always wanted to do a pageant, but where I grew up, it wasn't a big thing like it is in the South. And I just, again, I'll get these ideas in my head, and I'll just once I decide I'm doing something, I'm doing. And so I was like, you know what? I want to do this. So I signed up and I did the pageant. I didn't know what I was doing really. My stepsister, she has done pageants her whole life. So her and my stepmom, they helped me a lot. And again, it was my first pageant ever, and like they used to constantly tell me like, don't be discouraged if you don't place. Most people don't place in their first pageant. You have to keep doing it, and blah blah blah. And then there's me. I take home second runner up in my very first pageant. But I just watched all these women, and they were so, I mean, just adamant. I mean, just one woman had brought like 5 different evening gowns with her, and they brought all these different outfits for interview. And I was like, why? Like that just you I feel like you're trying too hard, and that kind of negates the purpose of this. I feel like it kind of tells me like you're not secure in yourself. You can't even decide one dress to wear. And don't get me wrong, like I'm the type of person that I don't know what I want to wear until like the moment I'm getting dressed. Like I hate packing for trips because I overpack because I don't know what I want to wear. But it was just one of those things. I just went in there, and I mean I practiced interview questions. I practiced, different things. I took some classes where they would like judge you and they would give you feedback. And I remember, so I'm a big, like I talk with my hands a lot. And one of the notes they gave me was that like you mess with your hair too much and you talk with your hands too much. And I was like,
Mhm.
but this is me, and I'm a really personable person. People feel comfortable when they talk to me. And when I went in my interview, I didn't touch my hair because I was standing up, but I did use my hands a lot. And I can tell when somebody is actually like genuinely engaged in the conversation or they don't want to be there. And I will say that every person on that panel was genuinely engaged in the conversation with me. And but the woman who did win, her name is Mary. I wanted her to win. Like she wanted it more than I did. Like I didn't know that I really wanted the crown more than I wanted the experience. So when she won, I remember being on the stage and being like, I like cheered for her. I was like, yeah. And so I was just so happy for her because for me, like, sure, would it have been cool? Would it have been, I can't talk. Would it have been cool to win the crown? I guess maybe, but ultimately I just really wanted the experience more than anything.
Now, do you remember the questions the host asked you, and did they ask you what specific talent can you do, or?
No, so this particular pageant didn't have a talent portion of it. We had a swimsuit, we had an interview, swimsuit, an evening gown, and then an onstage question. And I don't remember my onstage question, but I do remember in the interview portion, one of the questions they asked me was, who is a female role model that you think girls should look up to? And I said Princess Kate of Wales, Prince William's wife, because I think she's very classy. She is a great mother, and she does all of these wonderful things for charities and just helping humankind. And I think that if you think about like if our society focused more on women like that, or the Princess Dianas of the world instead of the Kim Kardashians of the world, think about the type of we would live in and the type of women we would be raising. And we wouldn't have all these women like twerking on the internet and things like that. You know, I just think that I would like to see a lot more class from women than the like ratchet and like trashiness.
Yeah, and like no Real Housewives, no hip
You
hop
shouldn't
in
be
Atlanta.
like, you shouldn't be proud to be like promoting like your dirty laundry and like your
Yeah,
issues and be like bringing yourself down, lowering your like vibration and like letting people rile you up like that. You know, if you
yeah,
have a problem, like you can address it in a polite and respectful way.
yeah,
And if that person doesn't respect you, like you're not entitled to someone's respect, but that you don't have to be a part of their lives. You don't have to talk to them. But you also don't have to do all of that. But I know that it's for show and I know a lot of it is, you know, scripted and whatnot, you know, but people love it. People because misery loves company, you know.
yeah. Been there, done that. Shoot. Um, I, I don't want to talk about it, but
I,
yeah. Now, after from writing a film to acting a film, which one do you enjoy the most?
oh, oh God. If I had to only pick one, I think I would choose writing because I love to use my creativity and my imagination, and I get to act it out in my head. And also, when I write a script, I will literally walk around my house and I will say the lines out loud so that I know what they sound like out loud. Because what something sounds like in your head does not sound the same out loud. Have you ever had that experience where like that sounded different in my head? It's very true. I think every screenwriter should be saying their dialogue out loud.
Now, now, what was your best achievement you ever had? You ever made?
I it's kind of between three things. So one, I wrote a short film called Behind the Smile, and it was inspired by the saying never say never, because you never truly know anyone or really yourself. You don't know what you're going to do because you'll say all day long, I would never do that. I would never do that. But until you get put into a situation and circumstances, that is what drives your decision is your circumstances. So you could think right now, I would never do that. But if you get yourself involved in a situation and those circumstances arise, you would be surprised what you would go out and do. So I wrote a short film about that, and it I entered it into film festivals all over the world, and I was accepted into every film festival that I entered it into, and I won an award from every single film festival that it was entered into. So that was a huge achievement for me. I was very proud of that. And then Hands of Hell, I was very proud of. So that was our first feature film, and we started shopping around for distribution. And at first, we were getting rejected, and it was soul crushing. I was like, oh my God, like, what have we done? But then the offers started coming in, and then Screen Media, who owns Redbox, they offered us distribution. And so they are our distributors for Hands of Hell. And that was so huge for me, like such a turning point in my career. And then, of course, the Texas Witch is, I don't think these are necessarily in order for me. I'm just really proud of the Texas Witch because we went through so much. Like, our original editor tried to steal the film and tried not to give it back and was trying to say that it was his. And, you know, we tried to contact lawyers, and it was, you know, because he's a nobody, basically. Lawyers don't want to take on cases like that because they know they're not going to get paid. And we finally got it back. And then we found another editor who was amazing, and he was so good at special effects. And so he took that movie and just, I mean, he took it up 100 notches. And I am so excited for the world to see that movie. I would love to like have a studio, and I want to, and my partner Andrew, he wants the same thing. We want a kind of like an Adam Sandler style crew, where, or like a Quentin Tarantino, where it's the same core people over and over and over. You can trust them, you build a bond, and you just go out there and you just like make really good movies. And you can trust each other and you know how to work so well together. I want that, like that is my end goal. I want to be able to just make great movies with a core group of people who we all get along, we all have a good work ethic, and we enjoy being around each other, and we have a love for what we do, and that shows through our work.
Now, what advice would you give to future actors that want to get into the acting world or the writing?
I would say that writing helps your acting because it allows you to get into more dimensions of a character, and it lets your imagination run more, so you come up with more ideas for like auditions and things like that, and you're more willing to take risks. But my biggest advice to an actor: take the risk. I don't care what the sides say. I don't care when they send you that audition. It's like, stick to this and only film it this way. And this, don't do this, don't do that. No, because guess what? They never pick the person who does that. They always pick the person who stands out. And who stands out is the person who didn't follow those rules. And that's what happened to me. I followed all the rules and nothing was happening. But as soon as I started doing my own thing, boom, everything started taking off. So that's my best advice that I could give.
Now, what is your next upcoming projects you working on?
Yeah, we are in the middle right now. I just finished writing the screenplay for it, but Andrew and I were approached by a book author. He wrote a book titled Four Exits to Hell. It's a true story about his late brothers. And he asked us, he had seen Hands of Hell, and he asked us to write his book into a movie. So I finished writing the movie a couple months ago now, and now we are just moving into pre-production. We're going to start filming next spring. And it was quite the honor too, because, and I truly believe this, like if you want something and you allow yourself to have it, like you say that's what I want, and you just forget about it and just know it's coming to you, it's going to come. Because when I played Bianca, I looked at Andrew and I said, wouldn't it be so cool if somebody saw me play this role and was like, oh, I want her in my movie? And that's what happened. The author of the book saw me play Bianca and asked me specifically and personally to play the lead bad guy in the movie based off the book.
Yeah, I'm very happy with your success, and I'm wishing you all the best.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your time, and thank you for asking me to do this interview. I truly enjoyed this.